Welcome to another episode of UCRD Reviews. So today I have another P-Bandai exclusive Gundam 0083 release. This is the RGC-83 GM Canon 2 version anime. So with the GM Custom, GP01, GMC type, it was only a matter of time before we got Keith and Adel's GM Canon 2 to round out the Stardust Memory team. So this is a mobile suit that only had one figure release way back in the MSIA days where they were releasing stuff in North America. And since then it really hasn't seen the light of day as a figure, unfortunately. So it's long overdue. And we finally have it, and of course they make it an exclusive despite it being such an iconic mobile suit in Gundam 0083. I paid about $75 for this release before shipping, and we're about to find out if it's going to be worth it. I mean, it looks really good. The promotional art looked really nice. It came with some cool stuff, but we're going to see how good of a figure it is, because it is bulky. So we're going to see what articulation's like, and we'll do a pretty cool comparison here in a little bit. But let's look at the figure. So the GM Canon 2 has some interesting development history. They took data from the GM Cannon and the Gun Cannon mass production type and combined it with the Chobham armor design from Gundam Alex. And we have this. And that's why it doesn't look like really anything that precedes it. It's a big, bulky GM cannon that uses beam weaponry. And this one looks really nice. So kind of like the GM Custom, you can't really put the head down at all. It will go up quite a bit. You do want to be careful of this piece, as well as both of the antennas on the head. You have the Vulcan sculpted in. Doesn't look like they're painted, however, but everything else looks pretty good. You do have an odd seam line kind of offset over here, but otherwise it looks pretty good. You have the hydraulics for the cannons, painted verniers. Let's go ahead and grab the backpack here. Let's take a look. So here is the GM Canon 2's backpack. The cannons can extend slightly, not much, and of course they can come down to a firing position. These thrusters here are ball jointed, and they are thruster effect compatible. These don't seem to be removable. These are the canisters for the cannons. These little verniers, they look like they're movable, but I can't get either of them to move, and they look kind of fragile, so we're just going to assume that they're not. But let's go ahead and plug the backpack in. You do want to be careful of these hydraulic pieces here, but that's it. It's on there. And so, like I said, the cannons will come down and they can be extended out for firing poses or pulled back here to be kind of in a resting pose. These little notch pieces here don't quite meet up with the cannons, but it looks like that was done intentionally. So let's move on to articulation. The arms won't really go beyond this, it looks like. They don't really pull out of the sockets. Shoulder armor has a little hinge here, and they'll rotate around pretty easily. Arms will spin at the bicep, and you get a decent amount of elbow movement there, considering how bulky the arms are. Hands are ball jointed with another hinge piece in there, and you have beam saber storage and shield storage on both arms. You do have a chest flex, which kind of works well. It does pull the armor away from the backpack, so when you're taking pictures and stuff, you'll want to make sure and reset it pretty well. The figure comes forward quite a bit. I don't know if you can see in there, but I mean, that's a good amount of articulation there. And it'll come backward kind of to a resting position, and you kind of set them back in place. The front skirt armor is hinged right here, which is kind of an awkward spot. Doesn't allow for a lot of movement. Side skirt armor is ball jointed. Rear is fixed. You do have a thruster effect compatible thruster there. And I think we've got bazooka storage for the bazooka that it doesn't come with. There's also a panel here for weapon storage. So for the legs, that's about as far up as they'll go. Not all that great, but again, a very bulky figure, so you do have to kind of expect limitations. There is no thigh swivel, and they come out about that far. And then with the feet, you have a little bit of side to side. Good amount of front to back, honestly. And you have toe articulation, and they are thruster effect compatible, and the foot armor is ball jointed as well. So the articulation is not really anything to write home about. The sculpt is really good. You know, it looks nice. The coloring's good. It has that GM custom green color, and then the really dark, kind of like a dark green all over the armor. There's not a whole lot going on with it. You do have spring-loaded pieces here, but it does look really nice. And it comes with a decent amount of accessories. So, speaking of which, let's go ahead and take a look at them. So the GM Cannon 2 comes with the standard assortment of hands, albeit a little bit bulkier than normal mobile suit hands, and the version anime hand rack. We also get the same type of shield that came with the GM Custom, with the same features. So you can store the bullpup GM rifle on either side, as well as store the spare magazines on the bottom of the shield. Again, same exact process as the GM Custom. Now let's go ahead and store the shield on the arm, because that's where it's going to differ a little bit. And so you have two different storage options. You have one piece that fits down here and stores the shield on the side, and then you have this piece that'll store the shield hanging off the bottom of the arm instead of the side. So it works really well. It sticks on there really good, so there's no complaints with the shield there. You also get the 90mm machine gun, bullpup style, compatible with effect parts, the same one that gets released with many of the Gundam 0083 figures, and the GM rifle we saw a minute ago, compatible with firing effects, and has a removable magazine. Now let's talk about weapon storage. So both guns can be stored on the GM Cannon 2. So let's go ahead and get them assembled up here. So I went ahead and removed the panel right there, and you can store the 90mm bullpup on the side, or the GM rifle. So they finally learned their lesson from the GM Custom, and it's not pointing up into the sky, which is nice. So I like this storage much, much better. You do get a beam saber blade, which is right here, and it works just fine. It's got a little tiny beam saber handle, not a whole lot going on there. And finally here we have an interesting piece, and that's this little one. So what this is for is this rear armor piece. It's removable, and you can replace it with this shorter one. And you're probably wondering why in the world you would even bother to do that, and that's to get access to the stand adapter, or the peg rather. So that way you can put the GM Cannon 2 on a stand without having it blocked off. So interesting idea there. So the final bit of this review is going to be the effect parts. So we get two curve peg thruster effects. So pretty simple. Come with a lot of the 0083 releases, except for the powered GM, which is dumb. But so you get two of these, and you get some really nice beam cannon firing effects. I believe these are the same one that actually came with the gun cannon heavy custom. So they're two different sizes. They look really, really good. You have a slashing beam saber effect part, which looks really good. And finally, you have a beam rifle firing effect, which makes absolutely no sense because this release does not come with a beam rifle. So maybe you can attach it to the cannon? No, you can't. It does not fit. So this is dumb. I guess you can make a giant beam saber from it, I suppose. Or you can pretend that the rifle is a beam rifle. I don't know. I don't know why this was included at all. They could have at least colored it yellow, like the GM Custom release, but we have a big, useless beam firing effect that's a waste of plastic on this release. So I decided to do a comparison with the mobile suit that utilized the armor concept that was built around the GM Cannon 2. And that's the Gundam Alex with its Chobham armor. So you can see there's a lot of similarities in the bulk of the design, as well as like the bulkiness of the legs, lack of armor on the feet, the way the armor is on the arms. I mean, they're both very similar. Obviously, the GM Cannon 2 has a completely different head. The backpack, I think, on the Cannon 2 has less thrust than the Alex. I may be wrong about that, but I know the GM Cannon 2 was pretty slow, and the Alex had the extra verniers from this armor down here. So it's interesting to see the differences in the designs and the similarities between a GM Cannon variant and a Gundam. But that's where it came from. So 0083 took some design elements from Gundam 0080, which is pretty cool. It's unfortunate that the GM Cannon 2 is a P-Bandai release. For a mobile suit that's featured in nearly every episode of Gundam 0083, as well as a AUG cameo in the Zeta Gundam movies in a more green color scheme, you would think that it would be a regular release alongside the GM Custom. But unfortunately, it is P-Bandai, it is a limited release, and it is going to be a little bit more expensive. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I paid about $75 for mine, and I like the figure. Like I said, there's some things to deal with, and one of which is, it doesn't have the greatest articulation. The accessories are nice. It comes with both the guns that it needs to come with. Speaking of guns, my GM rifle, the little camera that's right here at my fingertip is actually loose on mine, so keep an eye on that. It hasn't fallen off or anything, but it'll actually rattle if you move the gun around. So I didn't even realize that these camera pieces were separate from the rest of the mold, but apparently it is. So keep an eye on that for your figure. You do have the spare antennas, which is always nice in case these get bent, and everything seems to work well. The effect part category was kind of weird with that beam rifle firing effect. I didn't really understand that. I think that could have been utilized a little bit better. But otherwise, you have a solid release. It's got nice coloring. I didn't really see much in terms of where they could have improved on that, maybe coloring like the Vulcans and stuff, but you know, this is solid, and it has decent weapon storage, which is pretty cool as well. But I like this one, so let me know what you think about it in the comments. Thank you for supporting the channel, and I'll have a link below to the Gundam Alex review if you wanted to check that one out, as well as the new Facebook page that is up. So if you want to see some, what's going to be released in the future for Robot Spirits and discuss that with other fans, as well as get a sneak peek of some of my reviews that are going to be popping up and be able to discuss things with me and ask questions, go ahead and check that one out. The link's down below. And again, I thank you for supporting the channel. This is all really fun for me to do, and I will see you in the next review.